What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Starting with some big news in the NBA. A lot happened in the NBA over the last day or two. You had Embiid put up 70. You had Karl-Anthony Towns put up 62. Then he was benched and then called out by his coach for stat padding. And Tatum at 39. And then all of a sudden, news dropped last night that the Milwaukee Bucks fired their head coach, Adrian Griffin. Bucks are currently 30-13. They've won 30 of their first 43 games. They are second in the Eastern Conference, only to the Boston Celtics, who are the best team in the NBA. And they fired him. Apparently, a lot of players had lost confidence in him. Just, one of them being Giannis. There was multiple occasions throughout the season where Giannis and Griffin seemed unhappy with each other, behind the scenes and even on the court. You saw, in a recent game against the Pistons, you had Giannis kind of drawing up a play, on a little on a little whiteboard, something that a coach usually does, and he's throughout the year he's kind of called up a team, the entire team, including the coaching, for not being good enough, and I guess the writing was on the wall. I guess so. It appears they're going to be hiring Doc Rivers. It appears that's basically official. I don't think it's 100% official yet, but so I'm not sure. I heard it was official and it wasn't, so I'm sure that will be official very, very shortly now. I don't get this move, to be honest. Okay, look, so I guess the players didn't try. I guess he had lost the locker room, that happens, but a lot of times it happens like late in the season. The fact that it happened, even several weeks before the All-Star break is concerning, and defensively they've struggled all year. They were gonna regress defensively. Either way, you lose one of the best on-ball defenders, at least from his position, in Drew Holiday. You trade him for Damian Lillard, who's great, one of the better players in the league. One of the more talented shooters in the league, and probably all time. But as a result, you're gonna regress defensively. That's just the way it works when you swap Drew Holiday for Damian Lillard. But it's definitely been a concern. They've really struggled defensively all year. They can score with anybody. They're top 5 in almost every offensive category in the league. But defensively, they're near the bottom in every category. And they're not playing well defensively at all. So maybe they wanted to change. I get that. All right, he lost the locker room. You can't do that as a head coach. And there may have been something else going on behind the scenes. Maybe something will come out the next few days, weeks. Something else. But I just think the players lost confidence in him. He just lost the locker room. But is Doc Rivers really the guy is that really a true upgrade? At that point, you might as well just kept Budenholzer. Look, I'd have a problem with him getting fired. I know he had a family member that passed away. I think it was during that series. That's very sad. You can't blame that. It's almost inhumane. That's an inhumane excuse if you ask me for Bucks fan. You still gotta, win that series against an 8 seed as the 1 seed. I thought he should have been fired. I mean, Budenholzer had a history of coming up short in Atlanta when he had the best record in the league. His entire starting five was all stars, and they got swept. I think in the second round of the conference finals by Cleveland or Miami. Forgot if LeBron was still in Miami, if he was in Cleveland yet. And last year as the 1 seed, losing in 5 in the first round to Miami. I don't care that Giannis missed 2 games. They won one of those games. Still should have won probably 6 games. Still should have won that series. Losing in 5 is pretty embarrassing. I think a year or 2 prior, you lose to Boston in the second round. They didn't have Chris Middleton here, but still had a great team. You lose to the Celtics the year prior in the second round. And the one championship year he had, they were one of the top teams. You get done in the first round. Then the second round, you come back and beat Brooklyn. But if Brooklyn was healthy, I think they win that series. In the conference finals, who'd you beat? Boston or something? And then in the finals, you beat Phoenix. All right, so he did win a championship a couple of years ago. But so I really think if that Brooklyn team is healthy, they win the series. Kyrie didn't play hard. Was probably at 30%. It was Kevin Durant, basically a bunch of Jags, because Harden was not nearly the player he was not near the player he was supposed to be. And like the hire when they brought him in, I was surprised. That they would bring in a guy who was a first timer, though he wasn't. He's one of the top head coach candidates as an assistant. He was on the, I believe he may have won a championship on that Raptors team in 2019. I believe he was on that staff, Nick Nurse's staff. But like Nick Nurse was available, and Giannis didn't want him, so Milwaukee passed him, and of course he goes to Philly, and Philly is third in the East. They're having a good year. On their hand, they've looked a lot better than when they've had Doc Rivers, who Milwaukee's trying to bring in. So, when it first happened, I was shocked. Then when I thought about it and when stuff came out, I was like, all right, that makes sense. But then when I heard they were hiring Doc Rivers, like, the Bucks are championship or bust. They gave up all this for Damian Lillard. They brought together. You have Giannis on that huge contract. He was going to be on another contract soon. He might not want to be there after this year or next year. If they continue to come up short, you have Damian Lillard, who's trying to win a championship before he retires. You have Chris Middleton, signed up for next couple of years. This is an older team with a lot of star power. And they're, on paper they shouldn't be worse than probably the second best team in this conference. They are championship or bust. Like, if they lose in the conference finals in 7 games to Boston, to me, you could argue that's a failed season. Not fair, but that's just the way it works. Doc Rivers, outside that super team he had in 2008, 16 years ago now, that he won a championship with in Boston, he has done nothing but blow lead after lead after lead and hasn't been able to get out of the second round. None of his teams. Whether it was in LA or whether it was in Philly. What makes you think to me any different than in Milwaukee? And all those teams were stacked. The Clippers had Chris Paul from young Blake Griffin, a young DeAndre Jordan. Those Lob State teams, Jamal Crawford and Matt Barnes. I'm not even sure if they even got to the conference finals. And in Philly, you had Joel Embiid, one of the best players in the league. At one point you had him with Ben Simmons before he fell off. At one point you had Jimmy Butler. At one point you had Tobias Harris, in his prime. Last couple years you had young Tyrese Maxey. And kicked out of the second round. Last year was up 3-2 against Boston at home. And you blow a big lead in the fourth quarter. Joel Embiid was the MVP, but doesn't get the ball in the last 5 minutes, and you get just smacked in Game 7. Like, at some point, why would you give this guy chances? The only reason I'm happy is we get him off the ESPN broadcast. But God, he's painful to listen to. But an NBA perspective, coaching perspective, I don't really know what he does for them. Like, you could argue under Adrian Griffin, this team could lose him in the second round. You think, all right, if they're going to be the 2, you think, all right, there's a handful of teams that could beat them. Philly could beat them. Personally, I think the Knicks could beat them. Cleveland could beat them. Even Miami could beat them. Like, they could definitely end up losing. They were definitely a team that I think was vulnerable to lose in the second round with Adrian Griffin. But with Doc Rivers, that doesn't change. Regardless of what was happening with Adrian Griffin, with Doc Rivers, that does not change. If they went out and hired a guy who we could look at, like, you know what, this guy is a better option, and he gives him the best chance to win and to win a championship, which is the goal of the season. Okay, fine. But Doc Rivers, come on. What they really should have done, they should have had some sort of meeting, let the players voice their concerns, try and work on it. If you're able to fix it, great. If not, maybe then you look to make a move. It's not like they're playing bad. Like, they're 30-13. They're only a couple of games out of the top spot in the league. Like, if the season ended today, they would play the first playing team, which is probably going to be like Indiana or Orlando or something. And by the way, Doc Rivers is finalizing the deal to become the next head coach, so it is official, basically. So that's now official. And then after that, in the second round, you think you play. Then that's where it gets tough. It could be Philly, could be the Knicks. which could be a tough series. I think a little tougher against the next matchup wise, and also Philly and Embiid in the playoffs has not been as good as he is in the regular season. But this year they have a really good team. You have a coach, Nick Nurse, who's won a championship before, only 5 years ago. Yeah, I doubt they would have gotten past the Celtics in the conference finals if that's what ends up happening. But Doc just doesn't change that, so didn't really agree with the move. I'll put it this way: I see why they wanted to move on. He lost the locker room, but I think they panicked. I think they know that Giannis isn't happy, and they know if they lose him in the first or second round again, he's gonna request a trade and want out of there, and they're gonna miss this window. When they won a championship a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, they thought this we got a wide open window. We're going to win multiple more championships. It's going to be an all-time great team. Giannis is going to be one of the greatest players of all time. And now that after a couple of early round playoff exits, and they may be staring another one on the face right now. They're in danger of missing the window because they might have to trade Giannis. They panicked. Giannis wasn't happy with Griffin, so they fired him, and they went and just scooped up who they could, and the best option available right now, there's scarce options, middle of the season, 4 games into the season. Doc Rivers, guy, some recycled has-been. Hasn't done anything in 15 years. That's my take on that. So, USA Basketball announced the 41 players who are eligible to be selected to be on the Olympic team this summer. There will be 12 of these guys will be selected. Those players are Bam Adebayo, Jared Allen, Paolo Banchero, Desmond Bain, Scotty Barnes, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Jaylen Brown, Jalen Brunson, Jimmy Butler, Alex Caruso, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Joel Embiid, De'Aaron Fox, Paul George, Aaron Gordon, Tyrese Halliburton, James Harden, Josh Hart, Tyler Hero, Drew Holiday, Chet Holmgren, Brandon Ingram, Kyrie Irving, Jaren Jackson Jr., LeBron, Cam Johnson, Walker Kessler, Kawhi, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, Bobby Portis, Austin Reeves, Duncan Robinson, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Trae Young. So those are the 41. A lot of really good players on that squad. Some of them it's like, all right, they're not getting in. They're not going to get on the team. Like Derek White's a really good player. I like him a lot. He's arguably an all-star this year. Plus, on both ends. Perfect fit in Boston. He's not. He's not one of the 12. He's not one of the 12 best Americans in the league. Like Austin Reeves. I like Josh Hart. I like Josh Hart a lot. I'm an ex. First of all, he doesn't have that great of a year. Second of all, he doesn't even start on his own team. Why should he be starting for our country in the Olympics? Like, come on. And I'm a Knicks fan. I love Josh Hart. He's great. He's a great role player, but come on. He doesn't even start on his own team. Like, give me a break. Like Walker Kessler, again, I like Walker Kessler a lot. I think he's got a bright future in this league, but come on. Cam Johnson, really? Chris Paul 5 years ago probably is a shoe-in for the squad. Chris Paul at 38, no. Bobby Portis, again, good player. I like him a lot. But no, he doesn't even start on his own team. And Duncan Robinson, why is he on the list? Why? He's not that good. Once in a while, he gets a spot of 3. Congratulations. Good for him. Chet's an interesting one. He's still really young. I don't know. Like Tyler Hero, I don't see the shot. James Harden again. James Harden 5 years ago, definitely on the squad. James Harden now, no, he's not making it. Like Aaron Gordon, he's not gonna get on the squad. Alex Caruso again. I love Alex Caruso, great player, but he's not the 12 best Americans in basketball. Come on. In the past, some of the big guys, haven't really played. Like LeBron hasn't played in a while, and I think after they saw in the FIBA, when they didn't do well, a lot of these stars who didn't play, which is usually what happens at FIBA. They send a much younger team, and it's not as good, and they lose, and then the Olympics they send the Avengers, and they kill everybody. They're like, oh well, how do we do so much better in the Olympics? Well, because we're in the Olympics, we are sending, the worst player on the team is probably a top 25 player in the NBA. In FIBA, you got dudes, in the rotation who don't even start on their own team. I like to guess they're probably, this is probably going to be much older team, but they're going to be pretty stacked. Like, I think LeBron will be there. I think Steph will be there. So a lot of these guys last hurrah. Like LeBron's what? This is his 21st year, so he's 20th year, 21st year. So he's what? 30, 39? You know, so then also the Olympics every 4 year, but you have the summer and the winter, also every two. So maybe in 2 years, LeBron will be 41. He won't be able to contract with the Lakers. He'll still be playing. Steph will be what, 37, 38 years old. Durant will be like 37, 38 years old. So this is the last hurrah for a lot of these guys. So I think Steph will be, I think LeBron will be, I think Kevin Durant will be there. I'm sure they'll be joined by Devin Booker. Embiid Embiid, obviously he's a U.S. citizen now, so if he wants to play, he's eligible for the U.S. team. You know, Jalen Brunson, personally, I think should be on the team. Halliburton should be there. Looking at the other guys, Tatum, if Tatum wants to play, he'll get selected. You know, Damian Lillard probably has a shot. Donovan Mitchell will probably be there. Kawhi. This is going to be a pretty stacked team. Like, I got like Kyrie Irving. He may or not, he'll be like a bench player on the team. Like that's pretty crazy. You know, like Anthony Edwards, I love, great player, and like I'm not sure if he would start on this team, probably be on the team. So those are the 41 players that are eligible. Just about the scores in the NBA last night. Got the Nuggets over the Pacers, 114 to 109. Pacers are not the Pacers. I'm thinking about the game actually being protested. That's the Blazers game. They lost 111, 109 to OKC. 20 Billups, timeout that was missed by the refs. They're up by too late. See what happens with that. Shy at 33 and 10 assists in that game, but back to the Nuggets game. Jokic 31, 13 and 10. Pacers have not won since they brought in Siakam, so that hasn't fit so far. I'll see what happens. Knicks over the Nets 108 to 103. 30 each for Randall and Brunson. McKemmer 36 but lost. I'm sure if you guys watched the game, but the game was at Barclays. Whenever the Knicks were scoring, it was really loud. There were you guys cheering. I mean, I know obviously they're both in New York. Knicks play obviously Madison Square Garden in the middle of Manhattan. But and right down the street is the Nets in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. But like, we're Nets fans. I mean, I know there's not a lot of Nets fans. I mean, you think of New York sports like Jets Giants, it's pretty close. Probably more Giants fans, but it's pretty close. Like Rangers Islanders, probably more Rangers fans, depending on where you go in New York, but it's pretty close. Mets Yankees, there's more Yankees fans than Mets fans, but it's close-ish. At least 60-40. Knicks Nets, it's like 98 to 2, like percentage-wise. Like there's very few Nets fans. I only know, at least in New York, one Nets fan. That's about it. And one person I'm talking about is not even from New York. Lives in Connecticut. So, not a lot of Nets fans. I don't know where they were. Poor Mikal Bridges. Can we just give them a next? They have the whole Villanova team already. Just tell them, take Fournier, take Grimes, bunch of first. We have plenty of them. Come on over at this point. Call up Chris Jenkins. I'll be an NBA cover player. Bring him in. Might as well at this point. Pelicans over the Jazz, 153 to 124. Yikes, 153 points in regulation. That's crazy. 33 from McCollum. Yeah, and the Nuggets, not the Nuggets, the Clippers over the Lakers, 127 to 116. Kawhi 25, 11, and 10 in that one. Lakers continue to struggle. All right, so let's talk about the NHL scores. Now, then we did some coaching stuff for the NFL we'll get into. Senators over the Canadiens, 4-1. You had the Stars over the Red Wings, 5-4. Lightning beat the Flyers, 6-3. Golden Knights over the Islanders, 3-2. The Islanders continue to struggle. Of course, they just made a coaching change, letting go of Lane Lambert and bringing in Patrick Waugh. It's a very odd hire. I said probably better option than Lambert, but it's a crazy man. Wild over the Capitals, 5-3. Blues over the Flames, 4-3. Oilers over the Blue Jackets, 4-1. I think they've won like 14 games in a row. It's crazy. Ducks over the Sabres, 4-2. And the Sharks beat the Rangers, 3-2 in overtime. The Rangers got to get their crap together. They've lost like 6 of the last 9. They almost lost to Anaheim. They were down 2-0 at one point, had to come back in that game in that third period. And now you lose to the Sharks, which was suggests that shouldn't even be a hockey team. You blow a 2-0 lead in the second period. In the third period, you lose in overtime to your former coach, who's David Quinn, who shouldn't be an Angel head coach. That's embarrassing. They gotta get it together. They absolutely have to get it together. Right, so some coaching stuff. The Las Vegas Raiders, made it official last week. They promoted Antonio Pierce. They removed the interim today and gave him the full-time head coach job. Definitely the right move. No one knows if Antonio Pierce will make a great head coach. Most interim coaches, they took over late in the year and they come in. Maybe they spark something. The team wins a couple of games, and the players rally behind them. And usually, you give them a shot, and then they realize, oh, they're actually not that great of a coach. Within a year or two, they're gone. But this guy Pierce, the players love him. They were completely rejuvenated under him. At the very least, he deserves a shot to prove himself. So they keep him. Something I don't like is they named Tom Twaska their GM. This is why the Raiders haven't been successful at all in the last 20 plus years. They've made the playoffs like twice since like 2002. This is why. Yes, he built the overall pretty good squad of the Chargers despite the results. He drafted Herbert, and you got a steal in Eckler, drafted Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. So some of those pieces, Joey Bosa, Derwin James, overall he built a good foundation, but also like the contract of J.C. Jackson, yikers. Pirate Brand still, what? Like, he overall never built a consistent winner with the Chargers, and got the team out with your division rival, and you bring him in. I don't agree with the hire. Mark Davis, terrible owner. He is not his father. To me, that makes no sense to me at all. So the Eagles officially dismissed Brian Johnson, their offensive coordinator. Obviously, apparently, Sirianni and Howie Roseman are going to do a press conference today. It is expected that Sirianni will stay as the head coach. Expects what the announcement is going to be. He's going to make a lot of changes to his staff. Of course, he already let go of the other coordinator, Sean Desai, and Matt Patricia, who took over play calling duties late in the year, which went very poorly. His contract was out, and they're not going to renew his contract. And the OC, Brian Johnson, was also let go. They're interviewing runner for defensive coordinator. I already talked about that yesterday. They're interviewing Cliff Kingsbury for their offensive coordinator role. I don't get why all these NFL teams want him as an offensive coordinator. He was a horrible head coach, which doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad coordinator, but he wasn't even a good college coach. He was a below-average college coach with Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech. Why is he getting OC interviews? The Bears interview him before they decide to bring in Shane Waldron as their next offensive coordinator. I'm going to talk about that very shortly. I don't get it. His air raid offense does not work in the NFL. I'd take him as maybe an offensive coordinator or an assistant on my staff in college. But even a college head coach, he's proven that he's not good. He just doesn't work. And why is getting all these interviews. You can see them pride themselves on running the football. It's when they succeed the most on offense. They're bringing Cliff Kingsbury, his air raid offense. They throw it deep and throw it some more. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. The Packers fired Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator. Thank goodness. He was absolutely horrible. He's gone. And the Panthers named a new GM a few days ago. They promoted their assistant GM, Dan Morgan. He's been around for a while. He played for Carolina for a while, for 7 years. He was in Buffalo's front office for a little while. And he's been with Carolina the last couple years. He got a promotion. I think it's an okay hire. I wouldn't have gone within the organization, considering how much of a dumpster fire the organization's been recently. But Dan Morgan, he's been around a while. He was in the Bills front office for like 7 or 8 years. He's been with Carolina for a few years. Bills draft decently well. You think, obviously Allen was a good pick, regardless of his turnover issues. He was a good pick. even Dawson Knox in the 5th round, from the 5th round, what he's giving you isn't bad. Dion Dawkins was a really good pick. They drafted decently. Tre'Davious White was a fine pick. Drafted decently well. This wouldn't have been my first choice. I would not have gotten within the organization, but to me, it's an okay hire. I think there are better candidates outside of the organization, but also Carolina's in a tough spot because they're such an unattractive option. You're taking over a roster that's horrible. They don't have a head coach right now. They're not going to get a top candidate. One of the top candidates. Their owner is a joke. They don't have a lot of cap space, and they don't have a first round pick. And they just had finished a team, and they have about 2-win season. So they were, for what they were with, I guess he was the best option available. I want to talk about Gerard Mayo's comments after he got promoted to head coach. Of course, he was a Patriot player for a while, was one of their inside linebackers for a long time. Last 4 years, he's been their inside linebackers coach, and then he got promoted to head coach after they let go of Bill Belichick, of course. He was saying, he sees race. Look, I get it, in a sport where there's probably 70% of the players are black, there's only a couple of black head coaches. That's a little concerning. The fact that you have to have a rule that had to be updated in the past few years, you have to interview a couple of African American coaches, when you look for a new head coach and GM, you have to do it for coordinator as well, is a concern. But this guy, he's telling the league, I see race. I get what he's trying to say, but I don't like the way he said it. If I'm a white player, I don't know if I want to play for Gerard Mayo. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. I don't like getting political at all. We don't talk politics on the show. We do not. And to me, race should not matter. If you're a good player and you're a good fit for the team, come on board. Obviously, it doesn't matter the color of your skin. If you're a good person, you're a good person. That's my motto. But I did not like the way he said that. And that's why I'm really worried about this guy. Look, as a Jeff fan, I'm honestly kind of happy because I don't have any confidence he's going to be a good head coach. But as a football fan, as an analyst, yikers. This dude was a linebackers coach under Bill Belichick for 4 years. And he goes and says that, and they gave him the head coach job. Yeah, he might not win 6 Super Bowls. That's my guess. He's not going to win 6 or 5 or 4 or 2 or 1 or 10 games in the season. How about that? That to me was first of all, I didn't like the way he said that. That he sees race. That to me just if I'm a white NFL player, I want to play for him. And just didn't like the way he said it. And just seems like he just seemed like a guy who's not a great head coach. And also, let's not trust Bill's coaching tree either. It's not good. It's not good. On to baseball, the MLB Hall of Fame was announced last night. The 3 players going this year will be Todd Helton, longtime first baseman for the Colorado Rockies, Adrian Beltre, longtime third baseman, was in Boston for a while, was in Texas, was in Seattle at the beginning of his career, and then Joe Mauer, one of the greatest offensive catchers of all time. Minnesota was switched to first base at the end of his career. All of these guys are very deserving. Were great. Adrian Beltre, one of the greatest third basemen of all time, incredible player. Mauer, one of the greatest catchers of all time, former batting champion. Todd Helton, was a stalwart of the Colorado Rockies for a very long time. Was in the World Series. All 3 deserve to get in. I do think Billy Wagner should have gotten in. He was only 5 votes short. He's got 1 more year on the ballot. I'm assuming he'll get in next year. But I don't know why it's taken him 10 years. Why it's been 10 years and he hasn't gotten in. He should be a Hall of Famer. Was a great closer everywhere he was. Whether he was with Houston, the Mets, even Boston for a short time, Philadelphia. Even Carlos Beltran, I think, is probably a Hall of Famer. Everywhere he was great. He was Rookie of the Year in Kansas City. He was a star at the Mets. He was really good in San Francisco. Even Houston wasn't bad. Though he cheated over there. The MLB Hall of Fame's a joke. They pick and choose who they keep out because of certain thing with steroids and the way they were portrayed in the media and things they've done off the field since baseball. And Obviously, the Astros scandal for Beltran, he was a big part of that. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. A couple of free agent signings. The Milwaukee Brewers signed Reese Hoskins, 2 years, $34 million. It's a really good signing. He didn't play last year, missed the whole year for torn ACL, but before that, he was one of the better sluggers in the league. Guy who's good for 30, 35 home runs, 80, 90 RBIs. Not a great defender, but you can live with him at first base. Big pickup from Milwaukee, who was desperately in need of a power bat. Definitely an upgrade over the first baseman last year, Robbie Tellez, who they non-tendered. Really good pickup for Milwaukee. Angels signed Matt Moore, 1 year, $9 million. He was a starter for a long time, came up in Tampa. Then a lot of injuries kind of cost him. He kind of fell off, and he officially moved to the bullpen recently. He had a great year last year. Forgot where he was. I think he was in Texas at one point. And the Angels brought him in. Angels trying to revamp their bullpen. That was very bad last year. They brought in Robert Stevenson a couple of days ago. Now bringing Matt Moore. They brought in a couple of other smaller signings. So definitely trying to revamp their bullpen. And the Washington Nationals signed Joey Gallo, 1 year, $5 million. Look, you know what you're getting of him. You're going to get 40 home runs and the sub 200 batting average. He's going to strike out 220, 230 times. He's a guy who's a really good outfielder defensively. He's going to hit 40 bombs. He'll draw a bunch of walks. He'll also strike out a lot and hit for no average. And he'll be traded in July. He's a trade chip for the Washington Nationals. He's not the greatest player in the world, but at least he'll hit a lot of home runs and he'll get on base once in a while. And he's a good outfielder, although he'll strike out a ton and won't hit for any average. So the golf match for the ninth year, this time it's a 4-eye match between. Actually, you got two women's golfers that are involved now. You have Rory McIlroy, Max Homa, Lexi Thompson, and Rose Zhang. Of course, Rory McIlroy is one of the best players in the world. He's very popular. Max Homa is an up-and-coming star in the PGA world. He was on the USA Ryder Cup team this year. Lexi Thompson is one of the best LPGA players in the world, and Rose Zhang is a rising star in the LPGA. That will be on February 26th. Last thing I'm gonna announce the Okada, who was let go by the Japanese wrestling promotion, is expected to sign with WWE and start NXT. That is huge news. We've had so much WWE news these last day or two. Yesterday morning, just a crap ton of stuff came out. You had The Rock was named to the TKO board of directors. So we announced that Monday Night Raw will be on Netflix exclusively starting next year. And then you got Okada coming to the WWE. Kevin Patrick got taken off SmackDown commentary, but it was announced that Michael Cole was going to replace him for now. Hasn't announced who the permanent replacement is, but for now it'll be Michael Cole, who will once again be doing double duty on Raw with Wade Barrett, on SmackDown with Corey Graves, and of course he calls the pay-per-views. So after the Royal Rumble, Cole will be back on both shows, which is good. He's obviously an incredible announcer. And Okada is most expected to sign with WWE, and he could start in NXT. This kind of reminds me of like AJ Styles, guy who's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Not a lot of people know him because he was overseas. Maybe he comes, you have him come out in the Royal Rumble and he has an AJ Styles kind of debut. We'll see, but he may start in NXT, but that's big news because he's one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.